Cultural Belief in Spiritual Care That Can Impact Healthcare, PowerPoint by Julie Boyce, United States University, Professor Keith Jenkins. Spirituality gives a different aspect to life, satisfaction in times of normal or unexpected circumstances, and by understanding how this works can increase a person's ability to be physical and mentally whole. Power of prayer and folk medicine in the African American community. Why did this start among the Black communities? Where did it originate from? Why did they believe religious elements and customs work? Later on in the PowerPoint, I will be providing examples of folk medicines among this community. Many African Americans, particularly African American elders, are immersed in the Christian faith, the quality of religion, and spirituality. Nearly 90% of older African Americans report being religious, whereas 60% endorse being spiritual. Integrating African tradition with Christianity, African Americans use faith as a coping and survival mechanism to deal with the harsh realities of life, such as the impact of discrimination or physical pain. Spiritual religious practices are used around the world. Psychologists of the past felt religion and spirituality caused mental illness, whereas the belief today, they feel it adds value to the individual life. Did the generation before us learn sooner that benefits of spiritual well-being? My grandmother often would pray with us and teach us that prayer will help any situation. Why did this group establish these beliefs and practices of prayer and use of folk medicine? The system was used because traditional medicine failed to support blacks and poor whites. Home remedies and customs were created to help people survive. Folk medicine consists of traditional healing concepts and methods used in past cultures by people deemed to have the healing power. Often based on religious beliefs, these practices are used to cure disease and promote emotional and physical well-being. There are a few things I wanted to mention what people believe worked when they were sick in 1926. If you had the chicken pox, go into the house where chickens were, let the chickens fly over you, and simply push the patient backwards into the hen house. Chills and fever, cut a notch in a piece of wood for every chill you have had, blow on it, throw it into a running stream where you never expect to pass again. Go home without looking back and you will have no more chills. When my son was not walking by 1 year old, I was told to take a dish towel and wash his legs. Do this for 10 mornings, and by the last day he would be walking. When my kids were sick with colds, I was told them to cover them in Vicks rub and put them on the warmest clothes, and it would get rid of the cold. However, both of my kids developed pneumonia after I did that home remedy. Asking about religion and spiritual matters will help me as the provider to assist the patient in becoming a whole person. I don't want to ignore their beliefs, but with traditional medicines, I would like to work with them in this area. I want to share my experience with prayer and customs. My mother was admitted to the hospital after a severe allergic reaction to lisinopril. She was rushed to surgery for an emergency trach and placed on a ventilator to help her breathe. As the clock began to tick, her status changed for the worse. I was told by the doctors that she might be transferred to a long-term care facility on a ventilator since she was not responding to the traditional treatments. I refused to accept that and called my siblings in for prayer. Her pastor came and laid hands on my mother as a form of our religion or customs when a person needs something special from God. Each day, I would play gospel music for my mom, pray with her. You see, my mother is strong in her faith and has taught me most of my life that God works miracles when nothing else works. Eventually, my mother was getting out of the bed and walked into her home. There was another incident when I was a little kid. There was a young man that was brought to the church. We did a beneficial service for him because he had been diagnosed with leukemia. At the end of the service, preachers, pastors, evangelists, ministers, everyone who was strong in faith surrounded this young man and prayed for him. Their prayer was that when he went back to the doctor, that his leukemia would be cured up and he would not have to have treatment. On the following week, he went back to the doctor and was given a diagnosis that his leukemia was gone. They could not find any abnormality in his blood. This stuck with me throughout my childhood and my adult. This also helps me to encourage others to follow their beliefs, along with working with the healthcare system. Explain why and how this practice has affected healthcare. I found an article on Lipcott that states, biomedicine addresses the physical body through biological, genetic manipulation, and is used through physical, surgical, pharmacological, cognitive, and behavior interventions. Spiritual medicine addresses the mind and spirit and is used through spiritual, cognitive, and behavior interventions. Spiritual interventions may include faith healing, laying on of hands, anointing with oil, prayer and meditation, attending church and religious events, Bible and other spiritual readings, listening to gospel music, and ministerial and community services. Spiritual care is the aspect of health care that attends to spiritual and religious needs brought on by an illness or injury. Cultural consists of the beliefs, behavior, objects, and other characteristics common to members of a particular group or society. I also added complementary and alternative medicines. Research has shown that healing touch facilitates the relaxation, response, and enhances the healing process. Healing touch restores balance and harmony to our natural biofield without the use of pharmaceuticals. Using healing touch and spiritual beliefs may be beneficial in this group. As I mentioned before, this culture tends to believe in old remedies and folk medicines. I found one that my dad is still currently using today, baking soda for an acid stomach. He always tells me that when I'm having stomach problems to take baking soda. I feel like that can be a problem because if you continue to have an issue, then that means something else could be wrong and you need to get it evaluated. I wanted to mention what I found about complementary and versus alternative care. If a non-mainstream practice is used together with conventional medicine, it's considered complementary. If a non-mainstream practice is used in place of conventional medicine, it's considered alternative. In this group, we don't want them to just use the alternative medicines or home remedies that they find work. We want to embrace their beliefs and still show them that the traditional medicines still can help benefit them. I remember my brother almost dying because my parents felt like prayer could heal him. When he collapsed in the hospital, they realized that their faith is good to have in bad situations, but medicines is still there to help prevent death. Thank you for attending my PowerPoint, and I hope what I said was beneficial to your practice as you begin to your journey in as a family nurse practitioner.